Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting Śrīmad Bhagvatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto the Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in the classes on Srimad-Bhagvatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamaline Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangriye. Hare Krishna, dear Vaishnavas, thank you so much for joining. We are reading the unalloyed, the topmost crest jewel of all the scriptures, Granth Raj. It is called Granth Raj, Śrīmad Bhagvatam. Canto 7, chapter 14.
So quick.
We completed chapter 14 yesterday and we summarized it as well. Anyone has any questions from chapter 14 before we move on to chapter 15? Now is the right time to talk about it. Anyone? Any questions or something is confusing, not so clear? Okay, so let's move on to chapter 15. We will read the summary first. The chapter is entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. So, very interesting title. It's a pretty long summary. We will request devotees to read 1 or 2 paragraphs each based on the length of the paragraphs. So let's start with maybe Puna Mataji. Would you like to start the first 2 paragraphs?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Chapter 15, Instruction for Civilized Human Beings. The summary of the 15th chapter is as follows. In the previous chapter, Sri Narada Muni proved the importance of Brahmana in society. Now in this chapter, he will show the differences between different grades of Brahmanas. Among the Brahmanas, some are householders and are mostly attached to fruitive activities for the betterment of social conditions. Above them, however, are Brahmanas who are very much attracted by austerities and finances and who retire from family life. They are known as Vanaprasthas or Brahmanas. Other Brahmanas are very much interested in studying the Vedas and explaining the purport of the Vedas to others. Such Brahmanas are called Brahmacharis. And still other Brahmanas are interested in different types of yogas, especially Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Such Brahmanas are mostly sannyasis, members of the renounced order of life. As far as householders are concerned, they engage in different types of scriptural activities, especially in offering oblations to other forefathers and giving as charity to other Brahmanas. The paraphernalia engaged in such sacrifices. Generally, the charity is given to sannyasis, Brahmanas, in the renounced order of life. In such, a sannyasi is not available. The charity is given to Brahmanas, householder engaged in fruitive activities. One should not make very elaborate arrangement arrangements to perform the Shraddha ceremony of offering oblation to one's forefathers. The best process for this Shraddha ceremony is to distribute Bhagvata Prasada, remnants of the food that has first been offered to Krishna, to all the one's forefathers and relatives. This makes the first class Shraddha ceremony. In the Shraddha ceremony, there is no need to offer meat or eat meat. Unnecessary killing of animals must be avoided. Those who are in the lower grades of society prefer to perform sacrifices by killing animals, but one who is advanced in knowledge must avoid such unnecessary violence. Brahmanas should execute their regulative duties in worshipping Lord Vishnu. Those who are advanced in knowledge of religious principles must avoid 5 kinds of irreligion known as Vidharma, Paradharma, Dharmavasa, Upadharma, and Chaladharma. One must act to the religious principles that suit his constitutional positions. It is not that everyone must adhere to the same type of religion. A general principle is that a poor man should not necessarily endeavor for economic development. One who refrains from such endeavor but who engages in devotional service is most auspicious.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
We'll not go in the detail because we'll be going in detail when we read the verses. So this is just a summary of the chapter. But important point here is, and especially this Pitri Paksha is going on, for those who may be aware, from the Bhadra Purnima till the Amavasya of the falling Amavasya, that 15-day period is called the Pitri Paksha. So Prabhupada is saying that, okay, elaborate processes are not required in this day and age. But what is required? 2 things, Bhagavad Prasad and Harinam Kirtan. And if one does that, that's a Yuga Dharma, no animal sacrifice, no other ways. So one can invite devotees at their home, do Harinam Sankirtan, and serve them Bhagavad Prasad on the name of their forefathers, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. That's the best way. One story I was reading, so Lord Ram also did the Shraddha ceremony for his forefathers. And they were doing this ceremony, and Mother Sita was present. And that time they were in the forest, I think in Chitraketu at that time. Chitrakoot. And suddenly, Mata Sita was also present, and then she goes inside. Then Lord Ram asks that why you went inside. She said, well, Lord Shri Dashrath Maharaj was present, his father was present, and his grandfather was also present. They would be very unhappy to see their Kulvadhu in dressed and just tree barks and going through so much austerity. And we didn't have anything much to offer them. How can I respect my father-in-law properly in this forest? So the idea, the point the devotee was giving the class was trying to make, that if done with the right consciousness, they will accept it and they will get the benefit. Now, atheistic people or faithless people may say, well, what's going on? How can the person, you don't know where that soul is, and how can that person receive? Well, it's very simple. If you transfer some money, let's say you are in Tampa or Alachua or Florida, and if you transfer some money to your friend, relative, brother, sister, who may be in, let's say, Delhi or Hyderabad, if you transfer to the right connection, will the money go? Will that person collect from there? Yes? Or yes, there are so many options, the money can be transferred. Similarly, if done with the right faith and devotion, that person will certainly get the benefit. That soul, that Atma, wherever that Atma may be, will get the benefit of sincere offerings of their their you know children or grandchildren or great grandchildren. So one must do their best. The idea is one must do their best and not ignore this. Lord Ram did, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, Prahlad Maharaj, as his was asked by Narsinghadev, why don't you do the final rites for your father? Vibhishana was asked by Lord Ram, why don't you do the final rites for your brother Ravana? So, especially this period is going on, so you don't need to do elaborate things. At the same time, you must not ignore saying this is nonsense or all these things. If we do in a Vaishnava way, it will just make us more uh, close to Krishna. What will Kirtan do? Kirtan will bring us closer to Krishna. What will Vaishnava Seva do? It will bring us closer to Krishna. If we give some charity, what will that do? It will bring us closer to Krishna. So why should we not do it? Okay, let's read the next one or two paragraphs. Maybe we will read. Kashish Mataji, you want to read next two paragraphs?
Certainly, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam to all devotees. One who is not satisfied with the mind must fall to degradation. One must conquer lusty desires, anger, greed, fear, lamentation, illusion, fright, unnecessary talks on material subjects, violence, the four miseries of material existence, and the three material qualities. That is the objective of human life. One who has no faith in the spiritual master, who is identical with Sri Krishna, cannot get any benefit from reading Shastra. One should never consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being, even though the members of the spiritual master's family may think of him as such. Meditation and other processes of austerity are useful only if they help in advancement towards Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, they are simply a waste of time and labor. For those who are not devotees, such meditation and austerity cause fall down. Every householder should be very careful because even though a householder may try to conquer the senses, he becomes a victim to the association of relatives and falls down. Thus, a grasta must become a vanaprastha or sannyasi, live in a secluded place, and be satisfied with food gotten by begging from door to door. He must chant the Omkara mantra or Hare Krishna mantra, and in this way he will perceive transcendental bliss within himself. After taking sannyasa, however, if one returns to grahastha life, he is called a vantasi, which means one who eats his own vomit. Such a person is shameless. A householder should not give up the ritualistic ceremonies, and a sannyasi should not live in society. If a sannyasi is agitated by the senses, he is a cheater, influenced by the moods of passion and ignorance. When one assumes a role in goodness by starting philanthropic and altru- altruistic activities, such activities become impediments on the path of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Again, this is a long chapter, so long summary, not going into too much detail, but few main points is one should not consider the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. That's one of the aparads, guru aparad. Even though those who may be close to the spiritual master, for example, his god brothers or his family members, if the spiritual master is a grihastha, or even in sannyasi, like his parents may consider him like a child. But if the disciple thinks like that, it is not a very good idea. So basically, too much familiarity brings contempt, and when contempt is present, there is probability of neglect and aparad, taking it cheaply. So we should be very, very careful. And also for householders, one must be very, very careful uh, and not become too attached to the relatives and bodily connection. So because especially, I mean, it's we will not even know when we will get carried away. The skin attachment is very, very deep. Bodily attachment is very, very deep. So we must do then. It's not that we should be irresponsible. Well, one of the duties of grihastha is uh, to balance. So yes, one has to sometimes go for some marriage ceremonies of one's friends, relatives, or some birthday ceremony, some death ceremony, some other ceremonies. Uh, but at the same time, one must not compromise on chanting of the holy name or one's bhakti. And yes, so many points, but we'll discuss more as we read the verses. For now, let's move on to Bankim Prabhu. You want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. The best process of advancing in devotional service is to avoid by the order of the spiritual master, for only by his direction can one conquer the senses, unless unless one is completely Krishna consciousness, there is chance of falling down of crosses in performing ritualistic ceremony and other fruitive activities. There are also many dangerous at every moment. Fruitive activities have been divided into 12 portions because of performing fruitive activities which are called the path of dharma. One has to accept the cycle of birth and death, but when one takes the path of moksha or liberation, which is described in Bhagavad Gita as Archana Marg, one can get relief from the cycle of birth and death. The Vedas describe those two paths as Pitrayana and Devayana. Those who follow the path of Pitrayana, Pitrayana and Devayana are never bewildered even while in the material body. A monastic philosopher who gradually develop control of the senses, understand that the objective of all the and develops control of the sensor, understand that the objective of all the different asramas, the status of life is salvation. One must live and act according to Shastra. If one who is performing the Veda ritualistic ceremony become a devotee, even if he is grasta, he can receive the causeless mercy of Krishna. The objective of devotee is to return home back to Godhead. Such a devotee, even though not performing ritualistic ceremony, advances in spiritual consciousness by the supreme will, will of the personality of Godhead. One may actually become successful in spiritual consciousness by the mercy of devotees, or one may fall from spiritual consciousness by being disrespectful of devotee. In this regard, Narada Muni narrated the history of how he had fall from the Gandhava kingdom, how he was born in the Shudra family, and how by serving exalted Brahmanas, he became the son of Lord Brahma and was reinstated in his transcendental position. After narrating all those stories, Narada Muni praised the mercy received from the Lord by Pandavas Maharaj. Yudhishthira, after hearing from Narada, become stoicistic in love of Krishna, and then Narada Muni left that place of returned to his own place. Thus, Sukdev Goswami, having described various descendant of the daughter of Daksha, and the seventh canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Krishna Babaji, thank you.
Thank you so much, Venkim Prabhu, for reading. Thank you. So, the last two paragraphs basically are telling us that one should take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and abide. The service should be done under the direction of bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, it's mental concoction, self-concocted ideas. Devotional service is to abide by the orders of spiritual master. And by that, one can conquer the senses. And again, even one may be a grihastha. Narad Muni is speaking that he can receive the causeless mercy of Kṛṣṇa and go back home. That's a goal of life. So these two chapters are pretty much dedicated for grihasthas. So Narad Muni, the previous chapter, and this chapter also is talking primarily about grihasthas, because that was Yudhishthira Maharaj's question. How can we grihasthas take to the path of bhakti? So let's begin this auspicious chapter, Instructions of Civilized Human Beings, text 1. Who would like to read? Hamsi Vilas Prabhu, want to start? If you'd like to read, anyone else, please raise your hand so we know who is going next. Please start.
Dandavad Pranam, everyone. Text 1. Sri Narada Uvacha Karma Nishta Dvija Kechit Tapo Nishta Nripapare Swadhyayenya Pravachane Kechana Gyanayo Gayo. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narada Muni continued, my dear king, such brahmanas are very much attached to fruitive activities. Such are attached to austerities. Some are attached to austerities and penances, and still others study the Vedic literature, whereas some, although very few, cultivate knowledge and practice different yogas, especially Bhakti Yoga. So this verse is telling how rare a devotee is and how we should not take each other for granted. It's a great fortune to have a wonderful devotee association, because a devotee is very rare to find. And Prabhupada is telling here, or in the translation, Narada Muni is telling Yudhishthira Maharaj how the different intentions of Brahmanas. One is to do fruitive activities, one is to follow austerities and penances, others reads literature, and very few actually practices yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga. Thank you, Prabhuji. Please, if you'd like to add or correct.
So in the last chapter, towards the ending, we were reading that how Brahmanas or Vaishnavas are the highest in the social order. And that's not based on birth. We have discussed that hundreds of times. It's based on guna and karma. One can become Brahmana, one can become Vaishnava, even though one can is born in a Chandala family of a dog eater. So now Narad Muni is talking about the different gradations of Brahmanas. Some are karmanishtha, typically the grihasthas, and who are desiring to perform the rituals. Then taponishtha are the vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means going to forest and doing austerity. That's the typical Vedic model. Then swadhyaya. Tapa means austerity. Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means basically swayam adhyaya. Adhyan is self-study of scriptures, studying scriptures scrutinizingly, and preaching, the brahmacharis. And then the jnana nishtha, referring to the sannyasis who are devoted to the culture of knowledge and bhakti. So these four gradations are mentioned here. So let's read the next verse. Prabhu, you can read the half of the purport, and then Jyoti Mataji can read the rest half.
Hare Krishna devotees. Text 2. Jnana nishthaye dhyayan kavyanya anantyam ichet devye cha tad abhaye syat itar bhayo yathartataha. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A person desiring liberation for his forefathers or himself should give charity to Brahmanas who adheres to impersonal monism, Jnana Nishtha. In the absence of such an advanced Brahmana, charity may be given to a Brahmana addicted to fruitive activities, karma khanda. Purport. There are two processes by which to get free from material bondage. One involves jnana khanda and karma khanda. The other involves upasana khanda. Vaishnavas never want to merge into the existence of the Supreme. Rather, they want to be everlastingly servants of the Lord to render loving service unto Him. In this verse, the words Anantyam Iccheta refers to persons who deserve to achieve liberation from material bondage and merge into the existence of the Lord. Devotees, however, whose objective is to associate personally with the Lord, has no desire to accept the activities of karma kanda or jnana kanda, for pure devotional service is above both karma kanda and jnana kanda. Let's stop here, Prabhu.
You can complete this, no?
Anyabhilashite sunyam jnana karmadi anarvartham. In pure devotion service, there is not even a pinch of jnana or karma. Consequently, when Vaishnavas distribute charity, they do not need to find a Brahmana performing the activities of Jnanakanda or Karmakanda. The best example in this regard is provided by Advaita Goswami, who, after performing the Shraddha ceremony for his father, offered charity to Haridas Thakur, although it was known to everyone that Haridas Thakur was born in a Mohammedan family, not a Brahmin family, and was not interested in the activities of Jnanakanda or Karmakanda. Can you read one more paragraph?
Sure.
Charity, therefore, should be given to the first-class transcendentalist, the devotee, because the Shastras recommended Mukhya Mukathanam api Siddhanam Narayanam Parayanaha Sudralabha Sudurlabha Prasannatmam Kotisva api Mahamuni. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be devotee of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful and are extremely rare. Bhagavad Gita 6:14-5. A Vaishnava is in a higher position than a Jnani, and therefore Advaita Acharya selected Haridas Thakur to be the person to accept his charity. The Supreme Lord says, I can stop you from.
Thank you. Yes, Jyoti Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavad pranams to all the devotees.
Yes,
The Supreme
please.
Lord says, Name bhaktas chaturvedi mad bhakta swapacha priya tasmai deyam tato grahyam sacha pujyo yatha hi aham. Even though a person is a very learned scholar of the Sanskrit Vedic literatures, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. However, even though a person is born in a family of dog eaters, he is very dear to me if he is a pure devotee who has no motive to enjoy fruitive activity or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are as worshipable as I am. Hari Bhakti Vilasa 10.127. Therefore, even if not born in a Brahmana family, a devotee, because of his devotion to the Lord, is above all kinds of Brahmanas, whether they be Karmakandis or Jnanakandis. In this regard, it may be mentioned that Brahmanas in Vrindavana who are Karmakandis and Jnanakandis sometimes decline to accept invitations to our temple because our temple is known as the Angrezi temple or Anglican temple. But in accordance with the evidence given in the Shastra and the example set by Advaita Acharya, we give prasada to devotees regardless of whether they come from India, Europe, or America. It is the conclusion of the Shastra that instead of feeding many Jnanakandi or Karmakandi Brahmanas, it is better to feed a pure Vaishnava, regardless of where he comes from. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.30. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mamananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in the devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. Thus, it doesn't matter whether a devotee comes from a Brahmana family or non-Brahmana family. If he is fully devoted to Krishna, he is a sadhu. Thank you. Back to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for reading. Very, very important verse. And we see that any verse which is important, Prabhupada emphasizes on the purport. That's also another, way to understand which verse is important. Because Prabhupada naturally gives elaborate purports. Everything is important, but some are more important than others. So in this particular text, the idea is whom to give charity. Yajna dana tapa should never be given up. Yajna dana and tapa pavanani manishinam. Even the great souls are purified by doing yajna dana and tapa. But the idea is whom to give. There are many people who just do like karma kanda. Karma kanda basically means fruitive activity. Oh, you do this yajna, you get this fruit. Jnana kanda, speculative things. Ratan Das Thakur says, we read that recently, karma kanda, jnana kanda, kevala vishera bhanda. Bhanda, bhanda is bartan or a vessel. Karma kanda and jnana kanda, mental speculation, and fruitive activities are like the poison, a vessel filled with poison. They will only lead to some pious activities and, maybe upper planet at the most, but not back home, back to Godhead. But pure bhakti is devoid from other abhilasha. That's the highest level of bhakti, like Prahlad Maharaj. Desiring nothing but the service of the Lord. Mam janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhaktir ahetuki tvai. Selfless, pure bhakti, that's the highest level. Well, someone may say, well, what if I have desire to get a new car or a job or this or that? Should I not worship Krishna? Well, one should still worship Krishna only, because Krishna says that, okay, no matter one has any desire or no desires or desire for liberation, one should render bhakti to the Lord. And the famous example is Dhruva Maharaj. So we should not, because we are all in different stages, so one should not feel bad, or if someone has material desires, one should still worship Krishna. Krishna is very, very dear. He will purify our desires and give us the right thing, when we have the right consciousness. So charity should be given to those who are in Krishna consciousness, those who are taken shelter of Lord Narayana, Narayana Parayana. They are the devotees of the Lord, not the karma kanda, not the jnana kanda people, because they have selfish agendas. But devotees should be selfless. Devotees should be selfless. The moment the devotee feels, okay, oh, I will, not go to his home or not go to his home and go to some rich person's home because he will give a better donation, that is all polluted. Many karma kanda and jnana kanda people, they do like that. So all the potency is lost. But when it is done with the selfless mood, then it has highest potency. It purifies that Brahmana or Vaishnava and everyone basically. Yet at the same time, from our side, one should do one's own best without. So there are both roles. The devotee should not expect that this person will give me anything. But if I am in the role of the person, I should do my best what I can do for my own purification. So that how Advaitacharya and Haridas Thakur, who was born in a very low family, this example is given. So the words used are Name Bhaktas Chaturvedi. By knowing big shlokas, one does not become Name Bhakta. They are not my real devotees. Mad Bhakta Swa Vacha Priya. So those who are not my devotees, knowing verses You know, the Karmakandi Brahmanas may know lot of verses they speak. We may not even understand what they're speaking. But bhakti is pretty much zero. On the contrary, Mad Bhakta Swapacha Priya. What does Swapacha mean? Anyone would like to tell? Without saying. You heard this word multiple times. Who will tell?
Dog eater.
Dog eater. Very nice. Can anyone give any other verse where the word Swa comes? Very, very common verse. Think about it. Very, very famous verse from Bhagavad Gita.
Prabhu, that Shuni Chaiva Shopake Cha Panditanam
Panditas
Samadarshana.
Samadarsh. Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shwapakeva Pandita Samadarshana. Very nice, Mataji. So Shwapaka. Again, that verse is dog or a dog eater. Pacha, Pachan, digest. One who is eating, you can try to link like this. So even the devotee may be born in the family of a dog eater, they called Chandala. That's Priya. The Lord is speaking. Tasmai deyam tato grayam sa cha pujayo yathahya aham. That person, that devotee is worshipable like me. We discussed that before also, and the Lord here is personally telling us. So the idea is charity should be given for Krishna conscious causes. We discussed that. For temples, for book distribution, for prasad distribution, for cow protection. Those who are doing this, not for karma kanda, but ideally for Krishna conscious activities. We discussed that when Ramya Prabhu was giving the class as well. So this is very, very purifying and helps us to purify and develop a sense of false proprietorship, develop a sense of detachment, etc. Any other comments, any questions anyone has on this topic? Any additions? No comments, no questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we have read in other parts that Bhakti Yoga includes karma and jnana, because there is acting in Krishna consciousness and reading Krishna conscious scriptures. But Prabhupada here says there is no tinge of karma or jnana in bhakti. So how can we understand these two?
Yeah, because it is free from fruitive desires. The goal to attain knowledge is not to show, hey, I am a great Brahman, I am a Trivedi, I can speak verses left and right. But if the goal of that knowledge is to grow more close to Krishna, that is just not knowledge, that becomes bhakti. So it's like a byproduct. Gyan and Vairagya are referred to as the byproducts of bhakti. So yes, one must use one's intelligence. If Krishna has given one's, whatever skill Krishna has given us, we must use it. It does not mean that we should not use our intelligence. But if the idea is selfless, pure devotion, then it is not karma kanda or jnana kanda or any other speculative things. Then it is free from any other tinge of selfishness. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Anything else before we stop for today? Okay, so at this time, we will continue tomorrow with the next verse. This is the last chapter for Canto 7. So thank you so much. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai,
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta
Jai.
Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai.
Jai.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa
Kripa
sindhubhyevacha
sindhubhyevacha
patitanam
patitanam
pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo
namo
namo.
namah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.